Hey there, welcome back to 16 Stops, a podcast. My name is Josh, and I'm here with Brandon.
What's up?
And today in episode 24, we're going to talk about the gear that's so good, we'd buy it twice.
Yes, sir.
All right, Brandon, this is going to be a good one. And before we get into it, though, we need to take a moment to talk about our sponsor, Brandon. So, who's this video brought to you by?
Speaking of gear, the best place to possibly buy it, especially if you're going to buy it twice, B&H.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love B&H. I buy my stuff from them. They are very supportive of both the podcast and my personal channel. So, yeah.
We have done probably an unholy amount of shopping through B&H over the last 4 years. So guys, if you like this podcast, support us by also spending way too much of your money at B&H.
Yes, and we'll make it easy for you. We'll put links in the description for the gear that we're talking about today, and also the gear that we use to record this podcast as well. So, and in true fashion for the 16 Stops podcast, Brandon and I have not shared our lists with each other. And I will spoil one thing up front, is that I don't have a camera on my list. Brandon, do you have a camera on your list?
I have one single camera.
Okay, I purposely did not put a camera on my list because those are always changing. So these are kind of things that help me out with everything.
Yeah.
All right, so do you want to kick it off, Brandon?
Sure, I'll kick it off. I'm going to kick it off with the thing I'm talking into right now. And I know, Josh, I know you're going to give me crap for this, and everybody else probably should too, but it's a Rode product. Ugh. It's the Rode NTG5. I got to be honest, everything that I've owned from Rode has been a hand grenade. Except for this mic. This mic is money. For the money, it has treated me so nicely.
That is the one Rode product I wish I still owned. I had to purge all of my Rode products after that whole incident and that podcast.
I understand.
That we talked about that. But I did love that microphone. It has great value. I think it sells for about $500, and it's probably the most versatile microphone you can buy because it comes with a lot of accessories. It comes with like the holder and some other stuff, and the pistol grip, I think it even comes with.
Yep, I got it right here.
So, and it's a very neutral microphone. It's also pretty small and pretty lightweight. I'm the one selling this. It's your favorite microphone, but
I don't know enough about audio gear to be like, oh, that's a great microphone. I have a horrible voice, and every other mic makes me sound worse than I already do. This one somewhat neutralizes that crappy effect.
It's very neutral, it's very natural sounding, and I'd said like it's small and light, and a lot of the sort of older microphones I would say that like are renowned for their sound quality are like big and heavy, and if you're using that like an on-camera microphone or trying to boom it, the NTG5 is very easy to work with. That's a great microphone for sure. Okay.
Item number one.
Okay, well, I'll follow that up with my microphone of choice because that was on my list. Is the Sennheiser MKH50, which is what I'm recording in my studio. And this was actually on my list, Brandon. I didn't just make this up.
Josh has got deep pockets. He's flush with cash.
So it is an expensive microphone. I think it sells for about $1,200. And it's one that I saved up for to purchase several years ago because I've, over the course of doing YouTube for 5+ years now, anytime that I can invest in my business, in my studio, I do that. So I'd heard, and again, I'm not a big audio person, but I'd heard that this microphone's great for interior dialogue, and I love Sennheiser products in general. So that's a microphone that I just leave mounted in my studio, and I use it multiple times a week, and it just always sounds good. So
it does. It sounds killer.
Well, and I don't do anything in post to make it sound fancier, and I don't have a great voice either. So we need all the help we can get.
If you're going to sell something, it turns your horrible voice into not so horrible. Yay.
Yeah, without knowing what you're doing. So yeah, I do have some other microphones. I am a big fan of Sennheiser in general, but if I were to pick one, I use this one more than anything, so that would be my pick.
All right, item number 2.
I didn't realize this was show and tell. I don't have all my stuff nearby.
Well, mine was close by. That's why I grabbed it.
Okay.
Right? I can't grab the mic and pull it into frame. That would be weird. Item number 2 for me is a lens that I bought this year that I have just shot on so much, and it is far and away my favorite lens of all time. It is this little guy. It is the Voigtlander 50mm f2 APO. Mouthful. Josh knows I love this lens. Some of my favorite photos that I've ever shot have come from this year, and they have almost all been on this lens. So good.
So has 50 historically been like the focal length you've leaned on the most, or is
No.
it just that lens in particular?
It's been this lens, and this lens really got me into shooting more 50s. That being said, it's still really the only 50 I shoot. I have a 50 millimeter Sigma Art, but I use it for video. I really don't shoot photo on it. This is like,
Okay.
yeah, there is. The APOs can be pretty surgical because that's just kind of how they are. I find that this does have still plenty of character. It gives you almost like a swirly look, which is not usually, like if you were to compare it to the Leica 50, I think the Leica is like more perfect, but also less character driven. And that, I think that's why I love this lens. You get sharp, but you can also get crazy at f2. It's so tiny. I mean, look at that. So it's a Leica M mount, just FYI. I don't know if you can get this particular lens in other mounts, but the reason I love it isn't just the image quality. The build is absolutely amazing. I think optical quality is as good as Leica's, maybe a hair less. And then it being M mount, Josh, you know, you can adapt this to basically everything out there, which is awesome. So it looks awesome for video and photo. I shoot it on everything I have.
I know they make those for E mount, but I would probably recommend everyone, if they're looking at that lens, to get an M mount, because M mount is almost universally adaptable to mirrorless mounts, and the flange distance is also really small. So if you adapt that to E or RF or L, like the adapter is really skinny, which is nice. So it keeps the whole package
super
like really
tiny.
small. And anyone watching, if you don't know what APO lens, it stands for apochromatic. Is that right?
Yep.
And it helps with getting rid of chromatic aberrations, which most of us are trying to get out of our images. It also does create a difference in the way that it renders depth and stuff. I don't know the technical part of it, but when you use an Apo lens, like, it definitely looks really cool. I still don't understand how those Voigtlander lenses, the Leica M lens, how they are so small and full frame. I don't understand why are we all using these huge lenses, and then there's these little guys. Why aren't we all using these? I don't understand why.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm currently building a set for my new video camera using these. So
Cool.
there are 5 of them. Not all of them are APO. This is the only APO one I have. But yeah, I love this lens. I would highly recommend giving it a try.
Very cool, man. All right, so I guess I will follow up with a lens choice now that I guess we're picking the same categories, and this is interesting because
This is not me. You're choosing to do this, Josh. Don't
Yes,
involve me.
True. It is our show here, so like you always like to remind us. So I didn't pick one lens, but what I decided to talk about here was just f2.8 zoom lenses in general. And to me, they've been the staple of every kit that I've ever had. So right now I own, the Canon sets. I have the 15 to 35, the 24 to 70. Naturally, most people would go to a 70 to 200, but I like my 100 to 500 more. That I use that for more situations. So basically 2.8 zooms in a native mount. I really love. When I was shooting Sony, I had the 16 to 35 G Master and the 24 to 70 G Master. I know they're like the most boring choices on the planet, but they just get the job done every single time. And I'm like, I don't have to fuss. It's like, I know if I throw those 2 lenses in my bag, like, I'm good for almost every situation. So
Agreed.
And I do really, of all the 24 to 70s, I really do, and 15 to 35, 16 to 35s, I really like the Canon RF lenses. I think they're just, they look great. They have great contrast and color and pop, and maybe the corner sharpness may not be as good as like the new G Masters or whatever, but I really do like those lenses, and they are stabilized. So that's my choice for lenses, are the boring 2.8 zooms.
I didn't ever own the 24 to 70, but I did have the RF 15 to 35, and I loved that lens. And on the KX, with their like center focus thing, you could do an awesome crash zoom with that thing because it just locked on focus so well if you use that little center focus. But yeah, I've also never been like a zoom guy until I got that lens, and then I got the Leica 24 to 90, and I love that lens. Absolutely love it. So I get the appeal of like just how easy they make things. And so if you can find one that also has a little special sauce to it.
Yeah, I do think the Canon L lenses kind of do that for me personally. I do like the way they look. So that would be my my second choice there. Yep.
You know what? I said I only have one camera. I got to take that back. I have two, but this one is different because it flies. The third thing is my Mavic 3 drone. I've had so much fun with this thing. I know that drones have gotten so good, you can go even smaller and get comparable footage, but one of the reasons I like it is just how good the battery is. It's the first drone that I haven't bought the Fly More combo for. I only have the one battery because it lasts like 40 minutes. You can charge it quickly through USB-C and send it up, and the image quality looks awesome, and it takes a phenomenal looking photo. So it's all, I've not had a single problem with it either. I've owned the Mavic, or sorry, what's the one I'm looking at right now? The Avata. The very first time I turned that one on, it flew into the air. It blasted off like a rocket ship into some trees, and DJI's like, on you, and they didn't give a shit. And then the FPV drone, like their original FPV drone, that one had an engine go out while I was flying it in Hawaii, or not an engine, a motor, flying it in Hawaii, and it went at about 80 miles an hour into the rocks. So dunzo. And I've owned like the Air 2S and the Pocket 2, or what do they call that? The Mini 2, and all of those just kind of sucked. There was always problems with them. The Mavic 3 has been just a Chevy. It's been like a rock.
So which one do you have? Do you have the Classic or the Pro or the Cine? Which one do you have?
It's the one with the two lenses.
Okay. So this was I was going to put this on my list too, Brandon, was my Mavic 3 as well, because I have the Mavic 3 Classic, and I've owned several drones as well. I've had like the Air 2, the Air 2S. I have the Mini 3 Pro as well. I have a bunch of different drones, and every time I fly the Mavic 3, I'm just reminded of how amazing that drone is. Not just in terms of the image quality, because I do think it has some special sauce to it. I think whatever they have going on in there looks amazing. But the way it flies and handles and operates, it's very professional. It feels heavy in the sky. Like, it's very easy to make smooth motions. I upgraded to that last year when I was doing all that real estate work, and it was like a no-brainer for me. I wish I had gone for the one with 2 or 3, whatever one you have, the Pro, I think is what it's called, but it has more than one that has the telephoto lens. I don't see myself upgrading to... We'll see what happens when the Mavic 4 comes out next year. It's rumored to come out like early next year. But yeah, I love mine, and I only bought one extra battery, and I found that I need about 1.5 batteries for most of the shoots that I do. So it's worked out really, really well, and I've made a lot of money with that drone. Every time I bring the image to the computer, I'm just like, damn, it looks good. Like, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, it works so well. I love the point that you made. Like, it is a bigger drone, and because of it, you just get a more stabilized, smooth shot. And to me, that's way more important than its top speed or something like that. And I think the only upgrade I could make to where I would see a significant difference is going to the Inspire 3, and then I'm spending like 10 times, the money, 5 times the money. And I don't think I'll be upgrading anytime soon. This drone has been good enough, and I think it will be for a few years.
I agree. I feel the same way about it. Yeah, and I have the Mini 3 Pro still, and I got it because the camera shoots vertically, like it'll flip vertically. But I went to go, and it was like, if there's any wind whatsoever, good luck getting like a smooth sort of like, filmic looking shot. Like, no way. So yeah, the Mavic 3 is awesome. All right, Brandon, what else you got on your list?
Well, it's your turn.
Oh, sorry, I was throwing in the Mavic 3 as well. I was agreeing with you, but I'll go to my next one. So yeah, it's fine. Let's talk about tripods. I bought a Sachtler Flowtech several years ago now. I got a really good deal on one. I wish the head was bigger, but at the time, and most of the time, I'm using smaller cameras. But that was a really painful purchase. But I am so glad I bought that tripod for so many reasons. It's very stable. At the time, I was doing a lot of recording out on farms and, stuff like that, where like I couldn't have things blowing over in the wind or people bumping into them. I use it almost every day at this point for studio testing and gig work and all that kind of stuff. And also, as you get older, you don't have to lean over to adjust the tripod.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing for me. So my Sachtler Flowtech is definitely on my list.
It's so fun. I was going to put that because, I bought mine a few months ago. B&H had a crazy sale on it.
I remember. I think I texted you, and you were like, "Yeah, I know. I want to buy it."
It was the Active 8T, I think. It's the side load one. It was like $4,000 for the head and the legs, and they had it on sale for like $2,400. I was like, "F it, I'll do it." Because I had the traditional multi-stage tripod. I'm that guy that had like the really expensive camera on a really crappy tripod, and I bought the Sackler. And while those legs are great, it's so nice to just be like click, 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 and then throw the legs down, and you're good. And it's just a single stage. But the thing that's made the biggest difference for me is mine has the quick adjust head. It's got like the lever on the front. You know what I'm talking about? Like you don't unscrew it. You just pull this thing up, move it, and release it, and the head.
Oh, mine doesn't have that. Okay.
So it's so fast. It's so nice because you just like look at the bubble, grab this thing, move it around, done. You don't have to unscrew anything and then move it around and then tighten it back up. I love that tripod. Great selection.
Yeah, and also not only how stable and quick it is, but the fluid head is unreal. So if you're actually like panning or tilting while you're recording video, like you can't go back to like a cheap tripod again after that. That's all I have to say.
No, it's super nice.
And hopefully it'll last a long time.
Yeah, well, you've had yours for a long time.
Yeah, 4 years, I think.
Yeah. Sorry, I know I keep looking at Josh because Josh is over here on my phone. I'm sorry to all of you out there. And Josh has said this before. When he edits the videos, he's like, "You're the most distracted person. I can't sit still. I'm always like looking around." And anyway, okay, I'll go on to my next one. I bought this thing, I want to say 4 years ago, and it's probably out of everything I've purchased, this has probably been the most beneficial to my business purchase because it goes beyond just like client work. It's a hub for YouTube, and that's my M1 Max MacBook Pro. You also have it, don't you? Did you also?
I have my computer on my list.
Yeah.
I have my computer. Yeah, of course. Yeah, go ahead.
It's so good. Like it just tears through anything I throw at it other than R5C RAW. Or sorry, Canon R5 RAW. That destroyed this computer for some reason. But like I've got 8K 60 frame a second red coat on here and it plays like butter. Like the M1 Max has been such a good laptop for me. And I will probably get the Studio at some point. But here we are 5 years later, and I really haven't noticed any sort of change to its performance. I love this computer.
Yeah, I put my M1 Mac Studio on my list. I remember when they announced the Studios, obviously you bought the laptop, but I had a laptop, so I bought the Studio, and very similar computer, I think, between our two computers, and I absolutely love it. It like I could have a million tabs open in my like web browser and still edit, and then I put 64 gigs of RAM in it, and for a desktop machine where I'm not only editing but doing emails and research and everything else I do in my office, like I absolutely love it. And I think it, like you said, like I think it's gonna be good for a couple more years minimum. And I did recently pick up a new laptop, which I got an M3 Max 14-inch that I can use when I'm traveling and for live streaming and other stuff. So it's kind of overkill, but at the same time, like I know I'm not gonna have to buy a laptop for like 5 years, but I think this goes back to like the Apple Silicon machines that came out 2-3 years ago now, like how insanely powerful they are for creatives. And it's one of those things where if it died, I would buy another Studio like right away. Like it's impossible to get the kind of work done without it.
Yeah. I was coming from the iMac, the Intel one, the last Intel iMac, and it struggled with anything I did. I felt like I was creatively hampered by that computer. I felt like there were lots of things I wanted to do in Final Cut Pro and editing wise that I simply couldn't do because I would move something and ball and it would just spin forever. I'm like, God damn, and I like click this, cut this, and it would ball. And when I got this computer, all of those creative like roadblocks and those, the beach ball spin just like went away. I could move as fast as I could possibly think. And that was like the first time where I was like, I really enjoy editing. This computer has made me enjoy the process of editing because I'm not creatively hampered anymore. And that's why I would say I would buy another one in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Brandon. And I do have to also, I should have said this at the beginning of the podcast, but this is all stuff that Brandon and I have like saved up over years to spend on. This isn't like we went out and just dropped all this money. This is like we've been investing this into our business over time. And I feel the same way about that computer and also my laptop. Like I will overspend a little bit on the computer in terms of like memory and processor speed and GPU and stuff like that because I don't want to have the computer be a restriction while I'm working or editing. And to me, that's a huge advantage. So I agree completely. I invest quite a bit in my computer.
This next one is actually an app. And this app was so good that it basically changed the way I thought about how all camera apps should operate. And it made the camera that I bought, came with it, that much better. You can't really see it, but it's the Red Control app. Nobody does an app like Red. Like everybody falls short in huge fashion when it comes to the Red Control app. Like Josh, you know, because you had a Komodo for a little while and you used it. That app is absolutely amazing. It works every time. I can use it on my Apple Vision Pro, as dumb as that sounds. There are times where it's handy to have it on there. But the fact that I can set up my camera, I can set up multiple cameras and look at all of the camera settings through one single app and control the cameras from there and the composition. It's so good. I wish it was in everything. And for some reason, here we are in almost 2025. And everybody, other than maybe the Blackmagic camera app, pretty garbage. Hot garbage from everybody.
So I haven't tried, I agree with you completely, Brandon. I've even considered buying a Komodo again, just for like the studio to use the app. Like I think people don't realize how powerful and convenient it is. Now there is some new apps that have come out, which I haven't tried before. There is a multi-camera app for the Canon Cinema cameras that I haven't tried yet because it doesn't work on the R5C.
I haven't seen that one, but that one for Sony, I'm sure you're going to mention the Sony one. The Cinema Plus or Camera Plus.
Yeah,
that one looks awesome. I haven't tried it
yet. Okay. But yeah, Red is doing a great job with that. And I just like how there's no restrictions with the app. Like you literally can control every single thing in the menu, which is huge because that's not the case in most apps. And you get a live feed.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty wild that you can like go in, pull up a focus wheel, set actual in and out points, and then rack focus like you would with an actual focus wheel off an app.
Yeah, and in addition to that, like you can tap to focus if you're using an autofocus lens. You can trigger recording as well remotely without having to like use another device. You can just use your phone or a tablet. It's great, man. Yeah, I wish more companies would get on that. So next thing on my list is my small HD on-camera monitors, and these were not cheap. I got thrown in with a camera package. I waited till B&H had a crazy sale. And one thing I do have to mention about small HD is B&H has regular sales on their monitors. You just have to watch their Deal Zone page, and every like couple weeks, one of them will show up, it seems like. So to me, small HD is kind of the standard out there in the like filmmaking cinema world. And once I've gotten my eyes on them and used them, there's kind of no going back for me. I mean, I have the Cine 5 and I also have the 702 Touch, which is an older model now, and I would like to upgrade to the Cine 7. But Brandon, you also have the DSMC3 monitor, which is a small HD monitor. So you know how good the panels are.
It's so nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super nice. It's such a nice monitor. The one I'm using right now off of this camera is the original Shinobi, and it's trash. It works, but it's trash. It works. Like, it takes forever to turn the thing off. You're holding this button for like 8 seconds. The small HD, like, click, it's on. It's up and going. It's bright. Also, they look so clear.
Yeah. Also I found that like the operating system in the small HD is just amazing how you can customize all the screens. I know it works like that in other ones too, but I really like that. Also, most of them have HDMI and SDI, so there's options there. I find the panels to just be really accurate, and I've gotten to the point now where, you know, maybe my eyesight and my age, like I pretty much have to use a monitor every time I shoot now. Like I can't see the screens on I can use an EVF, but I can't use the like little screens on the back of a camera very often. I also find it's really helpful when you're doing client work, if you don't have like Video Village set up and wireless transmission, you can like they can look over your shoulder, or even I was doing an interview last week. I just flipped the monitor around and they could see themselves, and they were like, "Whoa, that looks amazing!" And then it's like, "Okay, you know what you're doing." Like I'm feeling comfortable. So there's a lot of benefits to investing in monitors. So I like my small HDs a lot. Your turn, buddy.
My turn. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with my one camera, and it's actually that camera. Oh, this is my KX. This beefy rig. Josh knows how much I loved the original Komodo. That camera was so good. I absolutely loved it, and I said many, many times if they ever made like an A camera version of that, then I would buy it. And they came out with this, and I bought it, and it has been just an absolute treat to shoot on. I've been testing this against another camera recently that has a much, much bigger sensor, and I am really impressed with just how much dynamic range and the color that comes out of this camera and the flexibility, just how quick and easy it is to shoot. Doesn't have some things, which is kind of a bummer, but Red Code Raw stops everything. And yeah, they're like little accessory ecosystem. Josh was talking about the monitor. The monitor's awesome, 7 inches. The little handle with the run stop. Time code. It's got everything I need. I mean, it's overkill for 99.9% of what I do. But when I upload everything to like Final Cut and I start working with it, I'm like, gosh dang, I'm so lucky. So yes, I absolutely love this camera. I will not be selling it. I've thought about getting a second one.
Surprised the Leica didn't make the list. That's all I have to say, Brandon.
I thought about it a lot, and I'm like, well, which one wouldn't? It'd probably be the Q2. It's actually an honorable mention. But these are, and again, like, I also wanted to stay away from things where people are just going to get, their pants all up in a bunch. So,
I mean, they're going to anyways, Brandon. You mentioned Red or Leica, like people get worked up,
All right. Well, you then, everybody out there watching.
Blackmagic's been a trigger lately too, for whatever reason. I don't even understand, but whatever. That's a whole other thing.
People are dumb and immature. Grow up. It's a camera.
All right, so I'm going to add another boring one to my list, but that's my Synology NAS. And
oh, yeah, you love that thing.
I love that thing. And I love the nerdy, boring stuff that allows me to get my work done faster. So we talked about computers already. The NAS is like, I've eliminated all these USB drives and SSDs, and I just edit right off the hard drive on my computer. And when I'm done with the project, I just dump it onto my server. Brandon and I use the server to exchange files back and forth to each other because it's accessible remotely and you can set up guest accounts. And I spent a lot of money on it several years ago, like a lot of these things that I've mentioned already today, but I would totally 100% buy another one or add on more storage to it or whatever. So if you're ever thinking about this, I have just to let everyone know, watches, I have the Synology 1621. It's a 6-bay NAS and I have it like loaded up. So absolutely love it, man. It's super fast. I have the 10G connection on it, so it's really fast to like bring files back and forth between it and my computer. So that's my next pick.
I will. That's one that's like, it's kind of like a tripod. Like, I don't want to make
so
this
hard.
investment, but when you do, you're like, this makes my life so much better. That's a good one though, Josh. My last one is, I don't know if I would say it's boring, because it's actually been super fun to use, and that's my small rig car mount. So it was like
good choice.
Yeah, it was like a sub $400 car mount. Like, car mounts can get really expensive, and this small rig, when I bought it, I want to say like 2 years ago, was just one, it's super fast and super easy. 3 little suction cups, a fourth one to like help stabilize the camera. And then it's all NATO rail type of like little magic arms. And I've done so many cool like car shots with that thing. And it holds quite a bit. It's got all your safety wires. But I mean, I've thrown this thing like fully rigged on there a few times for some cool shots that I did through the redwoods. And it's so fast that it's fun to use. Because I think if I had something that had like huge rails and like a huge system and it took a lot of time to set up, I probably wouldn't try for those shots. Because like in our line of work, speed is like kind of paramount in many ways. And that thing is really fast, and that's what I love about it.
I've not gotten into that world, but it looks like a ton of fun and get a lot of cool shots. So
Yeah, they're a blast.
All right, so the next one on my list is my teleprompter, and I don't remember the model I have, but Prompter People is the name of the company, and I worked with them, and they sent me some stuff, and so I don't remember the actual model, but I use this thing. I've been using a teleprompter for several years now. I don't script my videos, but I outline them, and they're also great right now. So like as I'm talking to you, Brandon, like your face is right in front of the lens, so I can look at you while I'm talking to you, as opposed to Brandon, who's always looking over to the side to see what I'm, like doing that. And so, but I use it for this when I'm live streaming also. It keeps my eyes more towards the camera than off to the side. And it allows me to get through my talking head videos a lot quicker because I stay on track. I don't miss things. I go into my edit and it's all sorted out already for me ahead of time. I just use the Notes app. I have this hooked up to a computer and I use the Notes app in Apple and I just put it on the screen. Like I said, I don't script it, but having the bullet points or if there's certain specifications or anything or an outline that I want to stick to. So I really do like the teleprompter. As much as it's annoying and it takes up space and you have to rig it and deal with it, like it's really nice to have.
Those were all of my things. I did have 2 honorable mentions.
Okay. I'll throw in a couple honorable mentions. Let's do that.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. You heard the first one. Like my Q2 and my SL2S are definitely cameras I would buy again in a heartbeat. I have the M11P, and I don't know if I would. However, the more I use that camera, the more I'm kind of like, that's all I want to shoot on. But there is something special about the Q2. It's that lens. However, they've made it. I love that camera. My buddy Kofi has it right now. Kofi's trying it out for like a month or I would show up. And then the SL2 is just, it's an absolute murder weapon. That is like the most well-built camera I've ever held. And
wait, SL2 or SL2S, Brandon?
The SL2S. I had both. I just got rid of my SL2.
Okay.
They're the same body, just different sensors. The Q2 sensor is in the SL2 or vice versa. The SL2S is the Reporter Edition, which I love. It's like a drab green with a Kevlar wrap, which is cool. And paired with that 24-90 I mentioned earlier, it is the landscape shots that I can get from that combo in the like little 3x1 mode. I love it. I just love it. So those are cameras I would, even though they're like 5 years old at this point, maybe even 6, I would buy them in a heartbeat.
If anyone hasn't held one of those SL cameras in their hands, like they are way more substantial than you think they're going to be. Like they're very serious. I want to point out too that your Q2 is, I forgot the name of that edition, but I really like the design of that camera. The Ghost, yeah. I really like the way that looks. So very cool.
It is a pretty camera.
So I wasn't going to put a camera on my list, but now they're doing honorable mentions. I want to put the DJI Pocket 3 on my list because
I like it.
That camera has been so freaking useful for me lately, Brandon. Like I use it for so many things. I used it a ton on my Alaska trip. And there's a lot of people that like can't tell when you're using a mirrorless camera or the Pocket 3 sometimes. And I'm like, how do you even get away with this? So for me, it's changed the way I create content in that I can just pull it out and be recording in 20 seconds and have good audio. And I also feel more comfortable using it in public versus like holding up a big camera with a lens and trying to vlog. When you're holding the little Pocket 3, no one really knows what you're doing anyways. So I had all this hype when it came out, and then now that I use it more, I'm just like, man, it is like really powerful, like little camera. So I'll put that on my honorable mention.
I like it, man. I like it.
Okay. You got one more?
Screw it. I'm going to call an audible, Josh. I'm going to call an audible, okay?
I've already called a few, so go ahead.
I had some, all right. It's our podcast. I had some lenses, but you know what? I'm going to put those aside, and I'm going to go with a camera, but just hear me out. This is one my buddy Matthew O'Brien got me onto. We were in Poland, and he extolled the virtues of the dad cam to me. He had a Sony Handycam, like a 12-year-old camera, and he popped this thing out, and I got to play with it. It's got autofocus, face detect autofocus, stabilization. It can shoot for like 12 hours on one card and on one teeny tiny battery. It has like a 60 times zoom.
I don't think this one's going to be on B&H though, Brandon. I'm not going to be able to link this one.
I'm sorry, B&H. Just carry a supply of these then. It's your fault.
What's the model number on that, by the way?
So this one is the HDR CX405. Like the moment you open it, it turns on, which is super cool. This crazy 60 times zoom is absolutely amazing. The image is kind of garbage, but I think that's almost the point. It's not unusable by any means, but it has such a nostalgic feel. I've got a little Peak Design capture clip. Throw it on the, the chest strap. It's always with me. I just love how fun this is. And to Josh's point, people kind of like act differently around this than a big mirrorless camera. Like they're way more like, oh, let's have fun rather than I have to perform. I can get like a completely different emotion evoked out of a person with this around than I can. Normally they're like, ooh, I want to play with that. And if I have like a really nice camera, they're almost like, don't shoot me, but I don't want to touch it. I don't want to like break it. And this, they just like, they want to get in front of and have a good time with it. This thing has been so much fun.
Yeah, there's so many things. I think those two choices kind of go together, and not only the performance of other people on camera, but I find the performance of myself on camera is different when I have a small camera I don't have to think about and doesn't like attract too much attention. I noticed when I was doing some vlogging with it, I'm not great at vlogging, or not super comfortable with it, I was getting a lot of things on the first take, which doesn't always happen, but I noticed that was happening more when I just hit it on. I don't even use an ND filter. I just hit record, good to go.
Good to go.
And shout out to Matthew O'Brien, of course. I'm glad he made the list.
He loves his retro tech, and he's so smart with that stuff. You can always go to him for a great retro tech recommendation.
Absolutely. So I do want to mention lighting as my last honorable mention, because I think it's a great thing to invest in, especially when things go on sale. So I do want to bring that up as like a practical point. I remember when I bought my first Aputure 120D Mark II like 4 years ago, and it was like $800 or something at the time, and I was just like, it was a huge investment for me, but it was that first time where I was like, okay, I need a really good light in my studio, and I was, mostly doing stuff outside, but when I was doing live streams or interviews or whatever, I had one good light. So I have two of those now, and I still use them in my studio because they still work great. But all the Amaran lights that have come out in the last few years, I love all of their products. And I'm not like sponsored by Aputure or Amaran or anything. I just use all their stuff. But nowadays we have such great lighting available to us that you can sync up to an app and have a great output, and they're consistent and they're not super expensive. And it was interesting because I was doing a corporate gig last week, and someone was asking me some questions about camera gear and stuff. And I said, I think one of the biggest things that has changed over the last 5 or 10 years has been the lighting. The fact that we can bring these COB LED lights that are small, high power, not hot, change the color temperature. I think we take that stuff for granted. So definitely invest in lighting if you're like looking to pick up any gear to have for a long period of time.
We've come a long way.
Absolutely. All right, Brandon, we had like lots of things. I lost track with all the audibles, and we also had a couple of honorable mentions. So I think that might wrap it up. What do you think?
Sounds good to me, buddy.
All right, good. Great to chat about all this stuff, and hopefully this is helpful for everybody watching. Thanks again to B&H. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all real soon.
Peace.